Good evening and welcome to Candidates Night. My name is Mary Ann Brignoli and it is my pleasure to moderate tonight's forum. Before we begin, I would like to thank the following: Hanover Women's Club Juniors, Mary Ann Serino, Yvonne Bright, Steve Ryerson, and Colleen Smith from Hanover Cable TV for facilitating tonight's Zoom webinar, and also, of course, our candidates. The format for this evening is in 3 segments. First, each candidate will be allowed 3 minutes for an opening statement. Second, questions relating to specific boards and departments will be directed to the appropriate candidate. Then each candidate will have 3 minutes to answer the question. And third, each candidate will have 3 minutes for closing statements. Now, let's meet the candidates. The school committee, we have 3 candidates vying for 2 positions: Libby Corbo, John Geary, and Ryan Hall. For the Board of Selectmen, we have 3 candidates vying for 2 positions: David Delaney, Steve Louko, and David Sawin. For the Board of Health, we have 2 candidates vying for 1 position: Delshaune Flipp and Kathleen Dauphine. Candidates running unopposed are, for the Board of Assessors, Melsi Xhengo, Library Trustee Jean Cianciola, our Moderator, Doug Thomson, and for the Planning Board, Bernie Campbell, who was unable to be here this evening, as is Jean Cianciola. So we will begin with opening statements, and first we will have the Board of Selectmen. And Mr. Delaney, would you like to start?
Sure. My name is Dave Delaney. I live at 78 Washington Street in Hanover. I moved to Hanover when I was 7, back in 1976. I am a product of Center School, Sylvester School, and what used to be Hanover Junior High, which is now called Hanover Middle School. And from there, I went to BC High and Boston College. You can see by the Eagle sign, I'm a BC guy. And I've been on the board of assessors now for going on 7 years. And I'm now 6 years into being on the Board of Selectmen. I'm currently the chairman. I spent 15 or 16 years on the Zoning Board of Appeals, worked with a lot of good people there and learned a lot. I do enjoy learning, and I do love the town of Hanover. That's why I do spend a lot of time volunteering. And also, I do appreciate a lot of the relationships I've built by being a volunteer and doing what I can to help. I own a business on Route 53. Been in business with my family my whole life, and my dad before me, and my great uncle and grandfather, and so forth. We've been in the car business since 1928. So that's kind of in my blood. I went to Marquette Law School up in Milwaukee, graduated in 1994, and became a member of the Mass Bar in 1995, and have been on the bar since then. I also got my broker's license for real estate back at that point in time, and dabble with that a little on the side for fun. And I've learned a lot as a member of the Board of Selectmen. Going in, I was encouraged by some of the folks that worked for the town to, I guess, advance my volunteering from the Zoning Board of Appeals and go for a run at Selectmen. I wasn't really accustomed to campaigning or running for my volunteer positions. Normally, I sort of just threw my hat in the ring, and if I was chosen, then jumped in and learned as much as I possibly could and help out along the way. But over the past 6 years, we've been involved in a lot of different things on the Board of Selectmen. I've learned a ton, and the board has changed over to the point where I'm now the senior member of the board. It's my 2nd time around as chairman, and it is a lot of time, and you go into it thinking you know a lot, but when you really get started, you realize you don't really know much at all, and you get a lot thrown at you on a daily basis, and you learn a lot about what's going on in town. Some things you're happy to be part of, other things you wish maybe weren't going on and you didn't know anything about. but nonetheless, you have to face them as they come and figure out it. What's that?
You have a few seconds.
Okay, so anyway, I'm looking forward to continuing the many things we've been working on. And I felt that if I didn't run again, I would leave some unfinished business. So I'm helping to move the town forward through the pandemic and see things continue to grow for the town.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next, we have Mr. Louko.
Thank you, Mr. Pignoli. Thank you to the Hanover Women's Club Juniors for putting this on. I ran for selectman last year and came up just a little bit short. Came in third place in all 4 districts. It was a great experience. I met a lot of people. I heard a lot of concerns of the people of Hanover. And I spent the last year continuing my volunteerism in town. I serve on the Hanover Conservation Commission. And on a monthly basis, we review projects and proposals that are close to our wetlands and river system that feed right into our water treatment plant. So on a monthly basis, we're talking about the groundwater in our town and development in our town and trying to make those projects better so we can all have a better environment to live in. And it's been a very good experience. In that I've been exposed to the cleanup at the fireworks property. And I'd like to take that experience to the Board of Selectmen because I know that is a focus. And we've had the results of a public health study released recently, that said that the contamination there, isn't the likely cause of the recent of cases of cancer in Hanover. But we still need to get that site cleaned up. And on the Board of Selectmen, I'd like to play an active role in making sure that gets done. I live in West Hanover. It's close to my home. And, when we bought the house, it was conservation land and a nice place to go for a walk. We found out that wasn't the case, as the years passed as we lived here. So, some things exist in the town, and I think it's important that we talk about them and solve those problems. You also serve on the Community Preservation Committee, and we've been trying to solve some of the big problems. The Sylvester School has been a lingering issue in town for a while. It was the town's first high school. It was actually built in 1927 on the 200th anniversary of the town's incorporation by local citizens that donated cash and land to build the town's first high school. So I've been working on a proposal to try to preserve that for the town and preserve that central historic school campus. We've also tried to advance our rail trail proposal. Rockland has done really well with their rail trail, and we have an opportunity to get it started here in Hanover. And I hope people show up at town meeting to support that proposal. It's been a good year for CPC, to try to advance some plans that haven't gone anywhere in a long time. And in a pandemic year, crazy year for everybody. We've all tried to keep things moving, and I know that's what I'm looking to continue on, hopefully on the Board of Selectmen.
Thank you. Thank you. And Mr. Sawin.
Thank you, Mary Ann. Greetings, everyone. My name is David Sawin. I reside at 203 Grove Street, and I'm running for the Board of Selectmen. I'd like to thank the Hanover Women's Club Juniors for organizing candidates night. I'd like to begin my short presentation with an icebreaker on public service. The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. And to give real service, you must add something which cannot be bought or measured with money, and that is sincerity and integrity. Woodrow Wilson, 20th President of the United States. A little bit about me. I'm a senior program manager for the United States Department of Transportation in Cambridge, Mass. My work centers on improving the nation's transportation infrastructure technology, cyber and physical systems. My work is focused on IT systems, risk management, project management, computer operations, and contingency planning. I'm a past president of the New England Information Systems Security Association, headquartered in Boston, Mass. I have a proven track record of successfully leading several projects at the national, state, and municipal level. Much of my work for the last 20 years at the DOT includes acquisitions-related activity, which relates directly to the Board of Selectmen, writing statements of work, writing and issuing requests for quotes, requests for proposals, solicitations, bid and contract review, managing contract performance, managing budgets, people, and processes, and ensuring on-time performance. My current work site is the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy in Kings Point, New York. I'm a graduate of Northeastern University, where I hold a Bachelor of Science in Management Information Systems and an Associate of Science in Electronic Data Processing. I'm also a graduate of the U.S. Non-Commissioned Officer Academy, where I've earned the Battalion Non-Commissioned Officer Graduate Certificate in Leadership. I'm a veteran of the U.S. Army 94th Army Reserve Command and attaining the rank of Sergeant. Entering my 50th year in the Boy Scouts of America, I'm the founding Scoutmaster of Troop 38 in Hanover, where my leadership team has assisted over 70 Scouts attaining the coveted rank of Eagle. Most of the Eagle projects were completed within the town of Hanover and required interaction with many municipal departments. My service to community and scouting continues as the Eagle Advisor in Troop 38 and to special projects and committees within Mayflower Council.
Time.
And I'm an active member of the American Legion. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, we will have the school committee. And Mrs. Corbo, would you like to start us off?
Thank you. I'd be honored. My name is Libby Corbo, and I am running for re-election to the Hanover School Committee. I have happily called Hanover home for 16 years. I grew up on a dirt road in a small town in Maine, worked hard to put myself through school, and met my husband, Greg, of 22 years at BU Law. We have 3 wonderful children, Andrew, who's a junior at Hanover High School, Abby, who attends 6th grade at Hanover Middle, and Amelia is a 5th grader there as well. I want to begin by thanking the Women's Club Juniors for hosting this forum, including Mary Ann Brugnoli for chairing this event. And I want to recognize my fellow candidates for election. Running for public office is difficult, and I have a great respect for anyone who volunteers for public service. I was first elected to the school committee in 2011, and I have served 3 terms on the Hanover School Committee, taking a year off to begin my tenure as chair of the Center School Building Committee. In my decade of service to the Hanover schools, I've served on many committees and many capacities, including school committee chair and 5 years as the chair of the school building committee. In these capacities, I've worked diligently to improve our public education in Hanover. The school system we have now has grown incredibly since when I first took office a decade ago. We've hired new school administrators, increased our per pupil expenditures, ensured greater transparency in our budget, implemented full-day kindergarten, and successfully navigated through the last very challenging year of the pandemic. I am dedicated to the Hanover community. I volunteered in many capacities, including founding a Simple Gesture in Hanover, and my most recent role as vice president of the Hanover Food Pantry. Prior to service on the committee, I worked at Copeland & Page as a public sector municipal attorney, with primary areas of practice being employment, labor and school law, as well as open meeting laws and the conflict of interest law. As demonstrated, especially this past year, the importance of schools in our community cannot be overstated. From academics to social interaction and sports, schools touch many essential aspects of well-being for our children. Schools also remain a significant portion of our town budget, and certainly this impacts all residents, including those without children in the schools. Having a school department that provides a challenging and enriching education for all students, performs efficiently and effectively while providing a challenging and enriching education for students, benefits the entire Hanover community. In the upcoming year, we must address important issues, including providing stability and a safe learning environment for students, addressing issues of regression and concerns that our children have lost educational time, as well as providing for the social and emotional needs of our students. These are all valid concerns and ones that I share as a parent. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Geary?
Good evening, Mary Ann. Thank you for hosting the event, and thank you to the Hanover Women's Club Juniors. I appreciate the panel discussion this evening. My name is John Geary. My address is 248 Mans Drive. I am a resident of Hanover for 14 years. I have 4 children enrolled in the Hanover schools. I have a 3rd grader, a 5th grader, a 7th grader, and an 8th grader. I'm excited for my 8th grader to start her journey in high school next year. And I have served on the Hanover School Committee for 3 consecutive terms, including 3 years as chairperson, 2 as the vice chair, and 5 years on the finance subcommittee. That subcommittee is responsible for contract negotiations with the Hanover Teachers Association. And I've also served 3 years implementing the Hanover Public Schools safety policies with the Hanover Police Department related to our ALICE training for active intruders and active shooters. In 2013, I was directly responsible for the hiring of Hanover's current superintendent. And I also served for 2 years on the Town of Hanover's Master Plan Implementation Committee. I'm a 10-year member of the Hanover Youth Athletic Association, serving as the vice chair and for over 5 years. I am seeking re-election for the Hanover School Committee because I'm committed to the Town of Hanover and dedicated to establishing high expectations specifically for our leadership team and also for the district as a whole. We can always strive for excellence collectively. I continue to work hard professionally and respectfully to challenge our administration team without bias or personal agenda to ensure that the district is providing our students and families of Hanover the best education possible. Thank you for having me here today, and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Hall?
Hi, thank you, everyone. Good evening. My name is Ryan Hall, and I'm running again for the 3-year position of school committee member. I want to begin by thanking the Hanover Women's Club Juniors for inviting me to this important event. I also want to thank the school committee, the community members, and my fellow candidates for being here. To begin, I'd like to share a bit about my work experience. I have worked to contribute to the education model in a variety of settings for the past 17 years. My experience includes classroom teaching in both middle and high school, writing grants to support the implementation of technology, planning with local and regional committees, and developing a rigorous standards-based curriculum. I began my career in Wellesley Elementary School, which quickly led to the position of mathematics supervisor for an alternative high school in Roxbury. When we moved to Hanover 11 years ago, I had recently joined Plymouth South High School and taught a variety of math subjects and levels. In my current position, I teach math for middle school and high school students in Duxbury, which is a 1-to-1 district. During this past year, I've also taught with the synchronous hybrid model, or as many of you know, the room and Zoom, as we like to call it, to connect students at home to the classroom every day. As a result, my students have been able to be more connected to the curriculum, to me, and to each other. And this has been a wonderful experience. Although exhausting, it's been wonderful.
Time.
I'm also,
It's time.
oh,
Would you like to just finish up?
I'm a proud mother of 3 children who attend middle, center, and Cedar schools this year. This experience has afforded me the perspective of collaboration from both sides of the table and insight into the programs of study at elementary and middle school levels.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much. Next, we have the Board of Health. Mrs. Flipp? Good evening.
Good evening. I had a feeling I was going to go first. So, good evening. My name is Delshaune Flipp. I reside at 505 Water Street. I am currently running for re-election of the Hanover Board of Health. And I moved to Hanover 5 years ago. I don't have much history, but I definitely want to make history with Hanover. I raised my son in the town of Rockland. He went through Rockland Public School Systems and I have worked for the town of Rockland and have 17 years of municipality experience. I'd like to thank the Hanover Women's Club Juniors for sponsoring Candidates Night, and also to all the residents that gave me this wonderful opportunity 3 years ago. This year has been a trying year for all, especially the Board of Health office. And I'd like to personally thank our health agent, Kim Dixon, our public health nurse, Nancy Funder, Will Barrett, and Derek Vozella, and I'm proud to be a member of their team. This has been a trying year, and I think that they need a recognition because it's very important. I don't think anybody realizes what we've all gone through. As the health agent for the town of Rockland, I've been able to share my experiences with Kim on a daily basis, on a not even daily basis, hour to hour, bouncing the constant changes with all the COVID information. But first, I want to go back pre-COVID. It was extremely educational for my first 2 years on the board to be involved in a lot of the regulation changes that we did with tobacco, microblading, and body art. It's really been an educational 3 years. I've learned so much from the town of Hanover, and it's helped strengthen my position in the town for the town of Rockland. During the pandemic, it was helpful with my health agent background. I was able to utilize Kim and Nancy's expertise, and we were able to keep Hanover community safe with all the constant changing regulations. With my experience as the current chairman of the Board of Health, we're in a great place. We have a lot of people in the medical field. We have the MIS program. We're lucky to have Nancy Funder, our public health nurse. Rockland does not have a public health nurse, so it was really helpful to get Nancy's public health background and able to share it with Rockland. Oh my gosh, I just lost my place, sorry. I am seeking re-election. I enjoy giving my time back to the town of Hanover, and
Thank you very much. Thank you. And next we have Mrs. Dauphine. Did I say that right?
It's Dauphinais.
Dauphine. I apologize.
That's all right. Nobody gets it right. My name is Kate Dauphinais. I live at 41 Longwater Drive here in Hanover. I have been a Hanover resident for nearly 15 years. It'll be 15 years in September. I have had the pleasure of having 3 children who are now in kindergarten, 5th and 6th grade here in Hanover. I am so blessed to have had the pleasure of volunteering with the PTA here in Hanover since Sarah was in kindergarten. I ran the PTA at Center for 4 years, so many people will recognize my very difficult to pronounce last name from all of the emails, I'm very sorry, that have come out through Center, and I am now the vice president of HPTA here in town. I have met so many wonderful people through that volunteer opportunity. When I saw the Board of Health position come up this year, I made the tactical error of saying to Libby that my nursing background would be a wonderful fit to volunteer with a Board of Health position. And Libby gracefully encouraged me to use that nursing background. I have been a nurse for 25 years now, or it will be 25 years this summer. My nursing background encompasses a brief stint on medical surgical floor. I have done most of my time on labor and delivery. I have worked in a neonatal intensive care unit. I have done several years in the emergency room at Children's. I have done operating room time. I have a very diverse background, but the majority of my time has been labor and delivery. I have worked through the last year in some really interesting circumstances. So it has been a very interesting year working through a pandemic. I've also, over the last couple of months, been lucky enough to have some interaction with the schools, and I've had the opportunity to go into the middle school and do some pool testing, which has been an adventure. Although Hanover definitely has it down. I was really impressed with how well they're doing it. But in light of the pandemic, I thought that using my nursing experience to go and do this volunteer opportunity with the Board of Health would be an excellent opportunity. Background wise for me, I'm a graduate of Boston College School of Nursing. I don't have my Eagle sign behind me, Dave, but go Eagles. And my volunteer background starts back at my years at Notre Dame Academy in Hingham. I love the opportunity to give back. I love the fact that this would give me some time to learn much more about Hanover. I know there would be a learning curve as I dove into a world that I'm not completely familiar with, but everything else I've learned in Hanover, this town will teach you everything you need to know and more. So I look forward to the opportunity to learn if given this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And last but not least, our moderator. Good evening, Mr. Thomson.
Good evening, Ms. Brunelli. Thanks for moderating this again. You did an
Thank
excellent
you.
job last year, and again, headed that way this year. And
Thank
certainly I
you.
appreciate the Hanover Women's Club Juniors putting this on, especially on Zoom. I think our attendance numbers last year were quite a bit bigger than the in-person numbers. It makes it much more accessible, and more accessible is always better.
I was just told we have 67 participants.
Nice.
So there you go.
So I'm proud to be Hanover's town moderator, now in my 15th year in that position. I'm born and raised in Hanover, graduate of Hanover High School before I went out to Syracuse University and received my bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering. I was away for about 6 years, and in 1992 moved back to Hanover and have been here ever since. My children are both Hanover High School graduates themselves. And as I'm unopposed, I don't need to take up people's time. I would just say, please mark on your calendars, everybody that's following us online here, and everybody who's present will be there. But town meeting is in a few weeks on Monday, May 3rd, starting at 7 p.m. at Hanover High School for the special, 7:30 for the annual. And the more people that come to town meeting, just like the more people attending events like this, the more secure our government is, because the wider participation is what gets us there. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Wonderful presentations, everyone. We received many thoughtful and insightful questions. And when questions were similar in scope, I took the liberty of combining them to avoid repetition. In a few submittals, lengthy commentary preceded questions. And due to time constraints, I will not be reading the commentary. However, I will be asking your questions. So the first question is going to be for the Board of Selectmen. And Mr. Delaney, are you ready?
Yes, I am.
Wonderful. With the rise in violence and racial tension within our country, what is your position on racial diversity, equity, and inclusion in Hanover? And how would you propose supporting marginalized populations in town?
Okay. Obviously that's a very hot topic lately, and it has been for many months, and in a controversial and a sad one. Obviously our nation has a lot of work to do along those lines, and it's a tough problem. In Hanover, I know that there have been issues involving racism, things that people have brought up recently, and that's unfortunate as well. I think fortunately we haven't seen anything of a great magnitude go on along those lines. Certainly I am against racism in all of its forms, and it's unacceptable. And at this point in time, you would think that we would be a lot further ahead as a country than we are. In the town of Hanover, I know that the Unity Council was formed in the past several months. I took the time to check that out online and become a member of it. So I'm looking forward to learn more about what they're up to, and they're looking to develop a more inclusionary atmosphere in town and be open to not only people of other races, but sexual orientations and nationalities and so forth. So I think any of those efforts certainly are good for the town and good for the country. A lot of attention has been put on that subject with our former president, and there's a lot of hope that some of that racial tension will get a little better with the new president. I'm not so sure that you can blame it on any one person for sure, but over the course of time, a lot of things have happened in this country that have led it to be what it is today and still exists. So in terms of what Hanover can do, I'm not sure. I'm all ears. I'm somebody who likes to be hands-on, and I'm always available to people that are looking for help. So I look forward to working with the Unity Council to see what they're all about. And certainly, if there are any issues in town where somebody's feeling like they've been persecuted for racial reasons or other minority classes that they might belong to, I'm certainly somebody that would stand up and help anyone in that situation or any other. So
Thank you.
if there is something I can do, I'm happy to jump in and help out.
Thank you very much. Mr. Louko, would you like me to reread the question?
Yes, please.
With the rise in violence and racial tension within our country, what is your position on racial diversity, equity, and inclusion in Hanover, and how would you propose supporting marginalized populations in town?
I am personally and unequivocally against any form of racism or discrimination. We're all citizens. We're all Americans. And it doesn't matter your color, your religion, who you love, or anything else. We all have the same rights. I grew up in a town with very similar demographic to Hanover. We had a home sold on my street, and a family from Roxbury moved in. And sure, there was the unknown. And I ended up becoming very good friends with he's my best friend. He's one of the person from high school that I'm in touch with the most. And they were the only Black family in our neighborhood, but we got to know them. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, if they don't know people of color, or people of other ethnicities, nationalities, people don't know. And that kind of race, the fear of the unknown persists, and it's unfortunate. And I think we have to call it out in our presence, because we need everybody on board. I grew up in the 80s. I remember headlines in the newspapers, factories closing and other countries are advancing, and we're stuck here fighting for opportunities. But if we want to bring, jobs back from other countries, and we want to advance our country here, we need everybody on board. And it doesn't help anything to discriminate against anybody. And in Hanover, as an elected official, I would take a position that we do whatever we can to make sure that everybody feels included.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Sawin.
Thank you, Mary Ann. That's a very important question, and I'm glad somebody asked it. So in the federal government, racism doesn't exist really. We address it head on 4 times a year through training and education. In the Boy Scouts of America, we address it through youth protection training, both with youth and adults, twice a year. It's just not acceptable. So because the Board of Selectmen sets the tone for leadership and ethics in the town, I think the board does a very good job of practicing diversity. And Doug Thomson does a good job of providing opportunities for a diverse population in the town to be appointed to boards. And so bullying, suicide challenges and all that happen, unfortunately, and it needs to be addressed in schools. We address it in scouting, and we have to continue to address racism and diversity on an ongoing basis. It's unfortunate that it still continues in this country, and we have to make a gallant effort to address it. One of my hot buttons is business redevelopment, especially along the Route 53 corridor. Something I'd like to introduce through the SBA is minority-owned businesses through the 8A program to allow minorities and those of diversity to open businesses in Hanover under an SBA program, which I'd happy to assist with. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Our next question will be for the school committee, and Mrs. Corbo, will begin with you. What do you see are the greatest challenges facing special education in Hanover? And how would you, as a school committee member, address these challenges?
That's an excellent question, and it's such an important one to be asking, especially as we recover from lost learning time during the pandemic. One of the biggest challenges I believe we face is just staying current and ensuring that the curriculum and the programs that we offer are match the current expectations in the learning communities. We've had a recent debate about balanced literacy and the science of learning and the science of reading. I think that that is very important that we explore that and that we put into position someone who will lead the department with the science of learning in mind. Someone who is up to date on curriculum and programs, who is in touch with our families and puts them first and their needs before all else. The hiring for that position is something that needs to be a priority for our administration. And I know that we'll be discussing that at an upcoming meeting. So in sum, I would say that one of the biggest challenges we face are funding, staffing challenges to make sure that we have all the specialists in place and that we are adhering to and complying with the current developments in reading, writing, and special education, staying up to date and current with the programming required.
Thank you. Thank you. And Mr. Geary, would you like me to reread the question?
Yes, please, if you don't mind.
Not at all. What do you see are the greatest challenges facing special education in Hanover, and how would you, as a school committee member, address these challenges?
Thank you. About 2, maybe 3 years ago, probably our district's biggest challenge was early intervention and identifying students that had special education needs. Our district has come a long way in 2 or 3 years, and now we are identifying these students at an earlier age and providing the services that they need. So currently, as a school committee member, I would ensure that funding's in place, and we as a town and as a community have done that. We have set placeholders and town meeting articles for special education funding in the event that a student comes into town that needs special needs that has for additional funding, or any students that are out of district placement. So the town has prepared accordingly through the town manager, through the superintendent, and through our finance and business manager, so that we're prepared as a town for the funding for these special education needs. But I think that our district is doing a great job of now identifying early intervention and using all the resources available. And to Libby's point, we are in a transition stage with our special education student services director, and that position will be filled hopefully in the next few weeks. So I think the district's moving in the right direction. Thank you very much.
Great, wonderful. And Mrs. Hall, would you like me to reread the question?
Yes, please. Thank you.
What do you see are the greatest challenges facing special education in Hanover, and how would you as a school committee member address these changes?
So I think one of them definitely would be the leadership position that currently we need to fill. I think it's very important that we focus on providing our district with a leader that has the ability to make those kind of decisions and have the oversight of the program that's needed to make sure that we're making effective progress for all students in our district. I also believe that early detection is something that, although we've begun the work, we really need to focus on detecting our students as early as possible so that we can provide these services at a younger grade. We can streamline the process and make sure that we are getting students the services as quickly as possible so that we can effectively allow them to access curriculum as they work forward. it becomes overwhelming to the district if students aren't identified until they're older. And then we need more support and services at different grade levels, and it will end up costing the district more in funding the later that we end up identifying these students, so the earlier the better. To be able to identify the correct curriculum, which is, focusing on science-based reading and programs that are important to all students in our district, but also that support our special education students, and ensure that we have the oversight to make sure that they are taught with fidelity would be key to our special education students as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Next, we have a question for the moderator. Are you ready, Mr. Thomson? Unmute. Thank you.
Unmute. I wasn't ready to answer a question.
What experiences and skills do you bring to the position of moderator?
Okay, well, I suppose to start with, 15 years of being moderator. I got involved originally that much time ago because there was a changeover happening. Unfortunately, Jan O'Brien was in ill health, and I knew that the moderator position would be open. And professionally, my travel time was increasing. So the option of being a selectman or a school committee person and putting in that type of dedicated time on such a regular basis wasn't going to be a good one. And I looked at town meeting. I had served as president of my fraternity and learned Robert's rules originally in that manner. And then professionally, I'm in sales and do a lot of interaction with large groups of people. I've done quite a bit of public speaking. So it seemed like something I would be comfortable doing and managing. So you brush up a little bit more on town meeting time, because that's what actually runs town meeting, not Robert's Rules of Order. It's a sort of a modified version of it, and studied that, but felt that it was just really well suited for my personality, my availability to volunteer in town, and to manage the meeting effectively. And so my goal has been to increase participation, explain the rules always in the meetings, to try to encourage those who might be a little intimidated by procedure to participate more fully. And I'm very proud of the fact that Hanover never has any problems with meeting quorum. Many other towns around us do. I like to hope that it's at least partly due to my encouraging of participation that we don't ever have that problem. And
Excellent.
lastly, I'd say the greatest challenge I always face is volunteers, getting more volunteers. I have quite a number of appointments. The more volunteers, the better cross-section of people we get. And I try announcing it on Facebook or saying it around town on the web or anywhere else to anyone that'll listen, but you never quite know how many people are going to show up. So when we get past town meeting, it's when I do all of my open positions or reappointments or any other things that are coming up. And hearing from anyone, my email address is moderator@hanovermass.gov. If you don't write that down or have that in your memory, you can go to the Hanover website and find it there. So I think it's well suited to what I do, and hopefully it's going well.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The next question is for the Board of Health. And Mrs. Flipp, I'll address this to you first. The pandemic has shown a light on local boards of health and their preparedness for health emergencies. What is your opinion of Hanover's response, and is there anything you would have done differently?
Absolutely not. No, I think that having the MIS program was huge. I think that Nancy Funder being able to utilize the school nurses is huge. I think the town together utilized every single Hanover department, between the school system, the police department, the selectmen, the town manager. I think it went as good as you could have hoped. I think that they all did a great job. I wouldn't have changed anything.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. And Mrs. Stefana, would you like me to read the question again?
No, I think I'm okay. I think Hanover has responded exceptionally well to this pandemic. To see the paramedics out doing their testing and the rapid deployment of responses with people being tested at home and down at the senior center, the pool testing in the schools, the school nurses and their preparedness, from the public health nurse to the fire department and their response to, I think everyone has done exceptionally well. I think Hanover has other towns calling them to see how they're doing it. I can't speak highly enough about how well they've responded, which has then trickled down to allow our schools to come back in ways that other towns have not been able to do. It really has worked exceptionally well here. I think they've done a great job. I don't think they could have done much better in completely unprecedented circumstances. And they did this response so quickly. They pulled it together exceptionally well, exceptionally quickly. I give them all the praise in the world for that.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next question will go to the Board of Selectmen. And Mr. Louko, you'll be addressing it first, please. What will you do to improve communication with residents about what is happening in town?
Well, to start, I think that the town does a pretty good job communicating. We do have a good presence on Facebook. Mr. Ryerson does a great job making sure that the weekly events are out there for people to find it if they want to find them. You have to go to where people are. Sure, we can put ads in newspapers, but if people aren't reading the paper, it's not going to do anything. Hanover Channel is another good way, but not many people watch it. And the town's not going to pay for advertising on network television where people are watching, or at a streaming service. One thing that could be a good idea is maybe a billboard, or at least some sort of a signage posted maybe in front of town hall. Similar to what's put out quarterly to remind people to pay their taxes. Maybe something a little bit larger, a little bit permanent, that's updated weekly, similar to the notices that go on Facebook to let people know what meetings are coming up during the week. Everybody drives through the center of town, so if there are people that think they're missing out, then we need to put the word out better. That's something that I would suggest.
I like that idea. Thank you. Mr. Sawin, what will you do to improve communication with residents about what is happening in town?
Thank you, Mary Ann. That's a great question. And Steve Louko, you have some good answers. So not everyone is on social media. I think the board does a good job of disseminating minutes from the Board of Selectmen meeting minutes, as well as other committees. We're not going to put a lot of announcements in the Mirror and in the Ledger. So let's talk about seniors for a minute. They can't get out as much. Maybe they're not on social media. I would recommend at least monthly roundtables with the Council on Aging, Legion Housing, where seniors live, Cardinal Cushing. Go there and meet with seniors and tell them what's going on every month. I think that's a great start with our seniors.
Great, thank you. Very good. And Mr. Delaney, what will you do to improve communication with residents about what is happening in town?
Okay, good question. I think that a lot of strides have been made since my time on the board. Not saying that I'm responsible for them, but the town website has certainly come a long way. Now we have a position where Steve Ryerson is being the mouthpiece for the town, and I think that we should spend some time moving forward, maybe coming up with a policy whereby any of the department heads or departments in town that have something important that they want to get out to the people should be funneled through Steve or that position, so that we have sort of one voice going out to the town rather than several different employees or people putting their own news out there. Sometimes it's accurate, sometimes it isn't, and oftentimes it creates confusion. So I think if we can kind of get a unified direction with regard to those communications would be very helpful. In my own case, I'm very available. I'm easy to find. I'm on Route 53. My name's out in the sign along with my cell number. People reach out to me all the time looking for information. If I don't know the answer, I'm happy to reach out to the department heads or the town manager to find out and get back to them. I think that some efforts like other members of the board are making to have office hours. I know Vanessa has been spending time on Zoom in the town hall, getting to know the employees and getting up to speed and getting word out to residents as well. So I think between social media, the town website, and being available will go a long way. But I also think that we could avoid some confusion by not having so many different directions of messages going out to people, but use the position that we have created and allow Steve to be the point man to get the word out to people, and that we can then be all on the same page.
Very good. Very good. Next question is for the school committee. I'm sure it's obvious that the school committee and the selectmen have the most questions for submitted this evening, but for the school committee, and Mrs. Hall, I'll ask you to go first, please. This question is in two parts and speaks specifically to the middle school and the system in general. The English Language Arts Program of Studies requires students to read novels by grade level. Is the level of reading materials aligned with the Common Core curriculum in terms of quality and quantity? Part two, are the quality and quantity of the written language assignments students are asked to produce in alignment with the Common Core standards? Mrs. Hall.
Yes, thank you. So specifically to the middle school, it sounds like.
Well, it actually said the middle school and then the system in general.
Okay.
But go ahead.
Thanks. I think we're definitely looking at a curriculum that needs review. There are definitely some concerns that I've heard from our community about the curriculum not being aligned with the state standards, and the lack of writing program in the district is also a cause of concern of many parents as well as myself. And so needing to align the Common Core standards with our curriculum is a very important task that we need to take seriously in our district so that we can move our reading and writing together forward. With that said, I would highly suggest if I were part of the school committee to take a look at an outside review of our reading program and our writing program so that we can align it with the Common Core standards, as well as rewrite our curriculum maps so that we can ensure alignment and then make sure that we are held accountable to those standards as we move forward.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Mrs. Corbo, I'll read it again. The English Language Arts Program of Studies requires students to read novels by grade level. Is the level of reading materials aligned with the Common Core curriculum in terms of quality and quantity? Are the quality and quantity of the written language assignments students are asked to produce in alignment with the Common Core standards?
Thank you. As a parent to two middle schoolers, this has been something that I've raised, this middle school curriculum, during school committee meetings and with our administration previously. And I believe possibly 3 years ago, it was part of the superintendent's goals. It could be 3, maybe 4 years ago. It was part of the superintendent's goals to look at the middle school curriculum. It is something that I think that we are working on, but we need to do better with, especially with bringing it into alignment for the Common Core. As noted by Ms. Hall, we do not have a defined writing curriculum that is comprehensive and works and builds on itself through our elementary to middle to high school. And that's something that we do need to develop, and I believe that we are working towards, but we can always do better. Middle school curriculum especially is something that should be engaging. It should be exciting. And I know that our teachers do the best they can to keep our students engaged. But that is something that I do believe needs attention, and it's something that we need to continue the discussion on as a school committee member and with our members of administration. So to answer the question, no, I don't think that our writing curriculum, the existence of a writing curriculum, I think it needs to be developed, it needs to be implemented, and I think we can do better when we look at our reading program and aligning it with Common Core standards in Massachusetts.
Thank you. Thank you. And last, Mr. Geary, would you like me
Thank
to
you.
reread?
No, I have it written down. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you.
There in fact does need to be some work in our district to achieve these Common Core goals. One of the things that's critical is that we are doing curriculum mapping. So for example, there is a study, then a plan, then an implementation, then a refine. So there's 4 stages to the mapping, and then that moves across the grid, kind of like a lane, year over year. So ELA may be in the study phase now, and it will be in the implementation phase next year. So it's kind of a moving chart, and our assistant superintendent of curriculum is working on that, implementing it with the teachers on a regular basis. To answer your first question about the novels, there is some novels certainly that need to be updated and refined in our district. And then as far as specific to the middle school, I know that a few years ago, we did add time to our middle school curriculum for ELA to enhance this process. But in fact, the question is valid, and our district does need, and we do have work ahead of us to achieve these goals, but our district is prepared for it. Our teachers are prepared for it, and our assistant superintendent of curriculum has a mapping plan in place to achieve these goals. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Thank you. Our next question is for the Board of Selectmen. At last year's town meeting, residents disagreed with the town manager, Board of Selectmen, in regard to the following: management of the transfer station, the proposal to allow Market Basket, to obtain a liquor license, and reducing the community preservation surcharge. Many residents felt that their opinions were not considered as decisions were made by those in town hall. What is your perspective where residents and the Board of Selectmen were clearly on different pages, and what, if anything, would you have done differently? Mr. Sawin.
Thank you, Mary Ann.
Thank you.
I think the Board of Selectmen has addressed all these 3 issues correctly. So in terms of the transfer station runs very well. We have a new supervisor there, and we have a new traffic management plan there. And we're trying to negotiate a new contract with the demolition materials. And I know that the supervisor there has looked at, along with the division chief at DPW, always looking to recap new monies from recyclables. The cardboard wasn't working out, so that goes in the pit now. So it's a life cycle review of the transfer station, and there's a better compliance coming in. So I agree with not turning over the transfer station to private sector. I think it runs very well within the town, and it provides good jobs for town employees. So I think the Board of Selectmen did a great job with that decision, and it was communicated properly through the chairman of the Board of Selectmen out to the town, what was done. Victor Diniak, the town manager, and the supervisor there at the DPW are constantly improving processes at the DPW. I think it operates well, it's clean, and plus my bottle bin with the Scouts works out very well there. So anyways, that was editorial. On the Market Basket issue with the licensing. So at the last town meeting, both the Board of Selectmen and the townspeople voted not to give them a liquor license to protect small business. There were 2 small businesses on Route 53 that were going to be impacted by that. So a decision was made to help protect them. And I agree with that decision. And the surcharge, anything to generate additional revenue without taxing residents, I think is a good idea.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Louko, would you like me to reread this?
Yes, please.
Last year's town meeting, residents disagreed with the town manager board of selectmen in regard to the following: the management of the transfer station, the proposal to allow Market Basket to obtain a liquor license, and reducing the Community Preservation Act surcharge. Many residents felt their opinions were not considered as decisions were made by those in town hall. What is your perspective where residents and the Board of Selectmen were clearly on different pages, and what, if anything, would you have done differently?
My approach to government is that the voters should get a chance to decide, and town meeting got a chance to decide. There was a process along the way. That was a public process that people could have come and weighed in on. But to the earlier point of community involvement, maybe they didn't know, maybe they weren't engaged. I don't think it's ever too late to come and weigh in. Town meeting is the final place for the decision, and that's the only meeting you can make. You got to make it. And I do think that the Board of Selectmen is accountable to the voters, and does have to create the reality that the voters want, and what our taxpayers are paying for. At the transfer station, I think it's obvious that the public wants C and D. I don't know if 23 cents a pound is the right number. I think that's something that could be discussed, but I think that people would feel comfortable paying a reasonable fee for that service, comparable to what it costs to dispose of it at other places. I think the transfer station is a great resource for us. I wish it could be run as efficiently as the fire departments run the MIH program, but it is what it is. We recycle what we can. We do need to do better checking stickers, and I haven't been 100% impressed with how that's going. But as a public board, we need to do better, right, and do better for the residents. As far as the other concerns with Market Basket, the voters spoke. And what was the third one?
The surcharge.
The
Community
surcharge.
preservation.
Oh, well, the surcharge, I serve on the Community Preservation Committee. And so I see the value in the CPA funds. We get state matching funds. When I look at my annual tax bill, it's a very small number compared to my real estate taxes. I'd like to see efficiencies in the bigger number. And if we can put that CPA money aside for big capital expenditures, important things that we need to move forward in this town, it's a smart investment. It's a savings account. And the
Great.
voters spoke.
They did. Thank you very much. Mr. Delaney?
Yeah, thank you. First, I'd say my perspective on this question is a little unique compared to the other gentleman here running for the board. And I'd have to say that I disagree with the statements in terms of the residents and taxpayers being in disagreement with the board. At least from my own perspective, speaking for myself as a member of the board, with regard to the transfer station, the C&D issue, I understand, is very popular with the residents and taxpayers, as it is with myself. I think that some facility changes need to be made there so that the people working at the transfer station don't have to police the situation, but there are better ways to handle that. We have now formed a committee to look into this and find the best and most effective way to handle it going forward at the least cost to the town. I don't disagree with the way the vote went. I agree with it. In terms of Market Basket, as I recall, that was an agenda driven by Market Basket. It was not an agenda driven by the Board of Selectmen. I felt that situation should go in front of town meeting and let the people vote for it. I can say in my own case that I'm on a first name basis with all of the small business owners that would have been affected by that. And they all reached out to me individually and as a group for advice and direction along those lines. And I advised them on what I thought they should do to protect their own interests, because some of them are homeowners and raising their families in town, and they're very good citizens and residents. So I was also happy to see that go the way it went, despite the fact that I like to help them all at any possible time that I can. I just didn't want to do that at the expense of small business owners who are also great members of our community. And lastly, on the CPC side, there were some members of the board that were supporting reducing the CPC. In my opinion, that was more of a politically driven agenda by certain members. I was not in favor of it. I think the CPC is a good thing. I think that the fund, when used properly, is a great thing for the town and can help to save our open space and other great assets that the town has. And I was not in favor of that either. So on all three cases, and being the only person here that is on the board and was on the board at that time, I completely disagree with the tact of that question. So I'm not sure who writes the questions, but I would say that they're not in touch with the opinions of all the board members. And I think it unfairly characterizes the opinion and direction of the board as a whole and the individuals that were on it. So in each case, I disagree. And I think my record will show that I was in favor of the way those votes went. And I stand behind the way that the taxpayers voted on all of those issues.
Thank you, Mr. Delaney. Our next question is for the moderator, Mr. Thomson. Would you like to unmute? Thank you.
Yeah, I was asked no questions last year.
I
so
know.
I'm all
Well,
excited.
this is the last one, so.
All right.
For you, what are some of the ways that Hanover can improve town meeting attendance and participation?
So it's a subject I certainly think often about. We tried some different things earlier in my tenure. The first thing I did when I started out as moderator was we had actually quite a long opening ceremony, including temporary committees reading reports primarily and a bunch of other things. And I did my best to sort of shorten that up, try to have the meeting as tight as possible. I also, we tried for several times the idea of having babysitting for young parents to have their kids there. And as it turns out, participation was really low. We tried it a bunch of times and it really, unfortunately, had no impact. I think many young families are probably more like we were at the time, where you just end up having one of you go and one of you not, if it doesn't work out for both of you. If we had one out of every household in Hanover attend town meeting while others took care of other business, we'd have a lot more attendees. So that'd be great. It's largely a promotional thing at this point. We, I try to get the word out, promote the idea, get people aware. Social media is helpful, but it's far from the only solution, as Mr. Sawin said. It's a, it's a communication we have around town on the web. We try to put signs up. Actually, we were just talking recently about, should we have a few more signs up to tell everybody what the date of the town meeting is so that they're more likely to attend it? It really is something all of us collectively, any of us who are involved in town government on committees or in elected positions, all need to be promoters of, because that's what makes our government strong. As I say, I'm proud that town meeting attendance has risen, albeit slowly, under my tenure, and that we never have any quorum problems, but I'd love to have twice as many people. I'd love to have a population challenge every time we go to do it. That we had 275 people during a pandemic attend. I think we did very well.
Yes.
But I'm always open to other ideas as to how we can increase attendance. My biggest central thing from a participation point of view, I mentioned earlier, which is explain all the rules as best possible. And when someone gets up and is a little flustered or a little lost, that's actually the most important time for me to try to listen to them and lead them through what are you trying to say, what are you trying to get across? Because I always figure there are 20 more people sitting in that audience who are afraid to get up and speak in front of a group. And maybe if they see that it went okay for someone who was nervous or a first time speaker, then maybe they'll try it next time. And we are seeing, I think, in the last few years, more first time speakers at town meeting. And I like that.
Yeah.
That's really encouraging. So
Yeah.
open to ideas if anybody's got any more. But again, I'll make that point. All of us on this display and listening in on this, you're the people who are paying a lot of attention in town government. You should all be promoting the idea of town meeting attendance. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. The next question is for the Board of Health, and I am going to get it right this time. Mrs. Dauphine?
Dauphinais.
Sorry.
That's all right.
The pandemic also showed that there is more to this department than code enforcement. In your opinion, what needs to be done to ensure that Hanover is prepared for any future disease outbreaks and/or disasters?
I honestly think that Hanover rallied really well around this and showed that they were pretty well prepared to take on this pandemic. So I think just maintaining what they were doing, and all of the departments came together really well and took care of this. So, I mean, I think if moving forward, all of our departments continue to work as well together as they have through this, that we're really well prepared moving forward to face whatever comes our way, and just maintaining sort of this great interdepartmental communication would really be key for whatever comes next.
Thank you. And Mrs. Flipp, would you like me to repeat the question?
Please.
The pandemic also showed that there is more to this department than code enforcement. In your opinion, what needs to be done to ensure that Hanover is prepared for any future disease outbreaks and/or disasters?
Absolutely nothing. I agree 100% with, echo exactly what Katie just said. I don't know if there is anything that they could have done. No one knew. The state didn't know, and the state still doesn't know. We're all in it together, all the way down to the bottom. Everything changes on a daily basis. So there's no preparing at all. You think you are, you take all the courses, the state says, hurry up and get your EDS site ready and go, because you're going to vaccinate your community. And then they go, never mind. So it's those things that, you get all geared up for it. Oh, we're good. And then you get a spike. And then you're like, all right, we're good. But wait until October and wait until the holidays. So it's always changing. And there's no preparing for it.
Thank you. The next question is for the school committee, and Mrs. Hall, I'll ask you to begin. Hanover has 2 curriculum directors for STEM in the humanities, and they're based mainly at the high school. Do these directors offer guidance to their departments through curriculum guides that outline the specifics of what teachers need to address throughout the school year based on the Common Core standards?
Thank you for the question. That is an incredibly specific question about their particular job role. So I'm not quite sure that I can answer specifically as to what they're held accountable for in terms of their role or position within the district. I can tell you that my understanding or expectation of a curriculum director would be that they would be the oversight for that kind of curriculum and curriculum mapping that were spoken about before, and ensuring that the teachers under their kind of watch are adhering to the curriculum and are held accountable to make sure that they are meeting the standards that are outlined in those maps for our district. So as far as their particular role or how they are expected to manage that, I'm unsure of in my current role as a parent and community member. However, that would be my expectation as looking at their job as a STEM director or curriculum coordinator, would be that they were the person to go to for the oversight for teachers and kind of hold them.
Great. Thank you. Mrs. Corbo. Hanover has 2 curriculum directors for STEM in the humanities, and they are based mainly at the high school. Do the directors offer guidance to their departments through curriculum guides that outline the specifics of what teachers need to address throughout the school year based on the Common Core standards?
Thank you. So that question is incredibly specific, and I'm sure perhaps it helps to clarify some of the role of the school committee. We do not get involved in the management of how building-based teachers are doing their job. That's not our role as a school committee, but we hope, and by holding administrators accountable, that specifically, the superintendent who we directly supervise, that the administration is doing their job, and the job of a curriculum director and curriculum coordinators are certainly to ensure that teachers are teaching to the standards that we expect. That, occasionally does break down, and hopefully that is addressed by administration. It's our job as school committee members to make sure that we hold accountable the superintendent, to make sure that he's doing his job in managing his staff. So I am not familiar with how the STEM director is providing guides to the teachers under his supervision, but I certainly hope that he is providing that support. And if he is not, the teachers need to address that with the principal of the school, or move it up the chain to the superintendent. We do hope that those roles are being filled correctly, and if they're not, that needs to be addressed appropriately. Thank you.
Mr. Geary, shall I reread it?
No, it's okay. It's clear. I guess for point of clarification, I just want to make sure that the viewers this evening understand that we have a STEM director at our high school, and his name's Matt Plummer. He is one of our district leaders and probably one of our most shining stars within the district. His responsibility is to manage the department as well as oversee and collaborate with the teachers within that department. His role actually dives a little bit deeper and goes and works with our middle school administrator and works with some of our 7th and 8th graders that will be future high school students. So that kind of covers the STEM portion of the question. The humanities portion, we don't have a humanities director right now. However, we're very fortunate that our current school principal and our assistant principal both have humanities backgrounds. So they're taking on that role of managing or collaborating with teachers and filling department meetings, scheduling curriculum, managing curriculum. So hopefully that answers the question. I'm not sure, it seemed very specific, and it also was not completely accurate based on the roles that we have filled in this point. So hopefully that answers some of the question, or at least answers the question to the best of our ability based on the personnel and the staff that we have in those positions. I'm completely confident as a school committee member that our current STEM director is executing all of his duties efficiently and effectively within the district. And I'm completely confident that our principal and assistant principal are executing the humanities initiatives completely effectively and efficiently.
Good. Thank you very much. This next question is for the Board of Selectmen. And we'll start with you, Mr. Delaney. There will be 297 new housing units built at the mall, but not a single one is affordable. How will you specifically work toward building more affordable units in Hanover?
Okay, that's a good question. Yeah, so 297 units, and correct, they are not affordable, so to speak. They are luxury apartments. With my experience on the Zoning Board of Appeals, I worked very closely with several developers during my time there, along with the other board members, on multiple 40B projects, Webster Street, North Point, the building at Cardinal Cushing, Kennedy Building, and others. So it is very important to have affordable housing in town. I know there are a lot of seniors that have been in Hanover for years that have large houses that they may not need anymore, looking to downsize and want to stay in Hanover, and it becomes increasingly difficult. So I think it does make sense for us to continue to look at other alternatives. I know that we're trying to balance the interests of people in town who want fewer apartments, and on the flip side, we do want to encourage people to stay in town and move to town that maybe couldn't afford to come in and buy a house that might be $800,000 or $900,000. So it's a delicate balance, but it's an important one. I do look forward to the mall building out that project so that it can become a tax-paying entity that, not that it isn't now, but it will be much greater, and it could take the burden off a number of people in town that are struggling to pay their tax bill. So, we will continue to look at those type of projects and work hand in hand with the Zoning Board of Appeals and the Planning Board moving forward to help to encourage projects that make sense for the town, aren't going to threaten the water supply, our public safety, overburden our schools. We can all reach out to the other committees and boards and work together to develop these things intelligently rather than haphazardly. So I think that there's certainly a lot of room for growth there, but at the same time, we have to be smart about it and not overburden the services in town.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sawin, would you like me to reread this?
No, thank you, Marianne. So, yeah, so affordable units. So just a few days ago, a small Cape down the street from me on Grove sold for $700K, and the Cape is smaller than mine. So yeah, housing is very expensive in Hanover, and I'm not too far away from looking at affordable housing within the city, within the town of Hanover. So that being said, I like the Salmon School location for an opportunity to perhaps put in affordable units there. Perhaps Hanover Crossing, the perimeter of the town is where I would work to seek affordable housing. Legion housing works well. It's on a sliding scale there. My mom was going to go in there and she had passed, but my mother was all set to go into Legion housing because of their the way that they structure the payments to the units. So I think that's a good model for the town, Legion housing, and it's run well there. So I would look into that as a model, and since it works well, I would just use that to go to the perimeter of the town. And I'm just waiting for Sylvester School to come up so we can talk about that. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. And Mr. Louko?
Yeah, affordability is definitely a challenge. Home prices are the highest they've been in some cases ever. And, it's driven by a lot of things. It's driven by there not being enough housing stock, enough supply. It's driven by low interest rates. It's driven by a lot of people moving into our area that formerly wanted to live in the city. So the demand is up. Demand is going to be what it is. Hanover is a wonderful place to live. Interest rates we have no control over. We can control supply. And I think we do need to consider supply in a responsible way. We have to make sure we have enough water for it. We have to make sure that it's done right. We have to make sure that it's going to protect our aquifer and how the septic is treated, in a way that is conducive to preserving our groundwater. I think it's possible. I serve on the Affordable Housing Trust, and right now the trust has $983,000 in the bank. We're working on some programs to help keep housing affordable for Hanover residents with some tax assistance for people that are in need. But there's also funds there, when we call them the project funds, to help make needed affordable housing happen. Barstow Village is a good example of that. It was approved by town meeting to use affordable housing funds. 10% of community preservation funds by law are required to go in a dedicated community housing fund. The Affordable Housing Trust also is getting mitigation money from the mall and from other developments. So I think when the proposals come up, they should be put to the voters if we're using taxpayer money to help make things happen. But affordability is an issue, and if we can increase supply, whether it be by helping to finance
Right.
The affordable units in exchange for guaranteed affordability for Hanover residents, or by making it easier
All right.
for residents to make affordable units.
Thank you very much. Thank you. The next question is for the Board of Health. Mrs. Flipp, you may answer this. Are you concerned about the nuclear waste being stored at the former Pilgrim Nuclear Power Plant in Plymouth Is there anything that Hanover should be doing to protect its residents?
I'm going to be completely honest. I am not aware. And unfortunately, it would be something that I would absolutely look into. But I would absolutely look into it in Hanover's best interest.
Thank you. Thank you. Mrs. Dauphinais?
Well done. I would need to honestly research what effect it would have if there was an issue with a storage failure down there. It's just not something I've researched up until now.
Okay.
In order to be able to answer that, I would need to do some research. So I don't know what my answer would be on that.
All right, that's fine. That's fine.
Research, but I just don't know enough about it right now.
Marion, if there's time, I can answer that at the end. I have some information that I'd like to share if there's time at the end or at any
That
time.
would be lovely. Thank you. School committee. So we have the questions for the school committee, and then we have the Board of Selectmen, and that is it for our questions. So are we ready? Do you believe there is a bullying problem within the Hanover schools? If you do, why has it persisted and what will you do about it? And if you don't, what would you say to those parents who believe that bullying is not properly dealt with by the school department? And Mr. Geary.
Thank you. I am not currently aware of an epidemic of bullying within our schools. One of the attributes of our schools that helps prevent any of this type of activity is our school resource officer. We have school resource officer in place for at least the past 3, maybe 4 years. And the responsibility of that officer is to get out in front of any of these situations, work with the student population, develop a rapport, develop a relationship so he can understand what's happening within the walls or on the playground or on the bus and make a preventative action so that bullying does not take place. In addition to that, we have other police officers that are involved in our school district that are responsible for our DARE program. And in addition to that, all of our administrators are keenly aware of the students and their interactions with each other on a daily basis. And I believe that our administrators and specifically our teachers who are directly in front of our students on a daily basis are aware of any situation that may begin to arise or start to bubble. And at that point, they can interact, they can intervene, and they can prevent bullying from happening before it starts.
Great. Thank you. Mrs. Hall, do you believe there is a bullying problem within the Hanover schools? If yes, why has it persisted and what will you do about it? If no, what do you say to those parents who believe that bullying is not properly dealt with by the school department?
Thank you. I do believe that if there are parents and children that are experiencing bullying in our schools, then there is a bullying issue in our schools. And I think it needs to be dealt with. If there are students that are experiencing that, I hope that they are coming forward. I hope their families are coming forward as well so that everyone involved is aware, administration is aware, guidance, school adjustment counselors are aware as well. There are programs in place. There's wellness courses at the elementary level. I know that there's DARE at the middle school level and at the high school level. I would hope that we have more access and connection with our guidance counselors to ensure that students feel like they have someone to go to and someone that they're connected with in the building. I think that's an access point that all students should feel that they have access to, that's readily available to them. In the middle school, I would think that there was an opportunity to, within homerooms, to build those relationships with students to make sure that they feel that they can come forward if there's an issue. In elementary schools, they have their classroom teacher, and those connections are really important so that students are able to connect with the teacher and that teachers are at the forefront looking for those issues. again, I don't think we need an epidemic of bullying to think that we need to address it. I think it's important that if any family is experiencing bullying in our district, it's important that we approach it head on. We address the issue and we make sure that everyone in the district is able to be aware and have a path for success for that student and that family. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Corbo, would you like me
Yes.
to read it, reread?
You do not need to reread it. Thank you for offering. I absolutely 100% think that there is a bullying problem in our schools and in any public school in the United States. There's just, if you put those students together, they are young, they are impressionable, they are, you're going to have a bullying problem. And to pretend that one doesn't exist or that it's not going to happen here in Hanover is simply, to me, it's just ineffective. The reason I think that, I think people are saying it's not properly dealt with, you know, it's insidious. It's very hard to address bullying because students don't feel comfortable coming forward or ratting out other instances of bullying. Nobody wants to say anything. And that is one of the reasons why it's so difficult for any administration to effectively address bullying. It takes teachers, it takes administrators being proactive, being vigilant, being aware. It takes an entire community of parents and teachers. It takes everyone to be vigilant, to provide a network of resources for students so they feel supported, so they feel that they can come forward. And it takes a very strong stance against bullying from all administrators and teachers when they become aware of it. You know, we also need to look at not only our response to bullying, but what support services are we providing, not only to students who feel bullied, to families who are going through this, but to also students who are acting out and think that bullying behavior is acceptable. You know, we have programs in our schools that teach kindness and teach empathy, and of course that starts at home. And when we see a child who is struggling to show those traits, they also need support. So I think it is a huge problem. It's one that's very difficult to prove, to establish. You know, a lot of times it comes down to he said, she said, and we really need to take a proactive role and be vigilant in looking at the behavior that's going on, to step in, to say things when we see them happening in the classrooms and when we see them happening in the cafeterias and on the playgrounds, to reward kind behavior, but also to provide support for students who are suffering from bullying, and also to look at the student who might be seen or perceived as a bullier and say, what can we do to provide resources for you to help you learn from this behavior so it doesn't continue to happen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And our last question of the evening is for the Board of Selectmen. Many residents are tired of paying for unusable drinking water. What is your answer to this problem? Mr. Sawin.
Thank you, Mary Ann. So in my last 2 months in talking with residents when getting signatures and asking them what's on their mind, the following comes up: clean water, clean land, renewable energy, Sylvester School, and affordable housing. So I think getting the water clean takes time. I believe we had some new filtration come online a couple months ago. It's better. I think we're under the state limits now with contaminants, but it's not done, and we're moving in the right direction. I think Victor Diniak, the Board of Selectmen, and Joe Quangelo are working hard all the time to find ways to get the water clean. So unfortunately, it's going to take more time. The purification, the contamination of the water didn't happen overnight. And so, you know, when we switched over 8 years ago to new equipment, and we had an issue with the chlorination of the water. The town management did a great job trying to address it. Unfortunately, it's going to take more time. It's better than it was. And that's what I tell residents when I talk to them. It's much better than it was. So, and it's going to take more time. We'll get there.
Wonderful. Well, that concludes this segment, and you were all wonderful. Your responses were so thoughtful and so well given, so articulate. So thank you. Now we'll do closing remarks, and I am going to reverse the order from where we started. You'll have 3 minutes of that, and I am timing them. I was told we should be wrapping this up by 9, so we're right on target. So closing statements, please. And I believe I will start with the moderator, Mr. Thomson.
Thank you, Marianne, and thanks again for a wonderful gathering. You do it very well.
Thank you.
I don't feel threatened, though. I think you've got enough things on your plate that you're not going to decide to go for my show.
Thank you.
So again, town meeting, Monday, May 3rd, 7 o'clock starts the special, 7:30 starts the annual. And for the second year in a row, we will be doing this fully masked the entire time. It certainly makes it an interesting experience. I would like to take a moment just to give my thanks to the public safety and public health departments who made the 2020 town meeting possible and safe. It was a tremendous amount of work, and I don't get many forums to say that thank you. I spoke this morning with Fire Chief Blanchard again about the plans for this year, and we're doing it at Hanover High School in utilizing both the auditorium and the gymnasium, and he and the others have got a great plan for putting that together. And actually a lot of it relies on what the school department has already been doing and knows already from all of the public meetings that they the student meetings that they hold in mass and how they keep everybody separated. So I feel real good about that, and I just appreciate the work of the people. I show up and stand behind a podium, and I'm happy to run the meeting and proud of the opportunity, but there's a lot more people putting it together and making sure it's safe during this pandemic. So kudos to them, and I'll leave it at that.
Wonderful. And we'll have the Board of Health, and Mrs. Flipp, would you like to give your closing remarks?
I didn't prepare closing remarks. I'm so sorry. I didn't even think of it. It totally slipped my mind. When you said it, I went, oh, so it's going to be by the seat of my pants. So I do want to say, I really want to get involved in that, the committee at the transfer station. Part of my role as the health agent in Rockland, I'm responsible for the recycling center. And I want my recycling center to look like Hanover's. And I say that all the time. And then now I hear that people aren't happy with it. So I want to jump aboard that committee too. There's so many grants out there. Every year I get grants from the town of Rockland. Last year I got $23,000 to use for equipment or whatever I need at the recycling center for programs, outreach. But it's something interesting, and I would like to be a part of that committee and help with the grants. Anyway, I really look forward to 3 more years. Hanover, it's new to me, and I want to keep staying with the Board of Health.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you. And Mrs. Dauphinais?
Thank you. Thank you, Marianne. Thank you to the Hanover Women's Club for having us here tonight. Thank you to all the town residents that have stayed with us tonight and listened to all that we have to say. I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be here tonight and for the opportunity to possibly serve on the Board of Health. I love the chance to give back to this town that has been so great for me and my children. And, if anyone has questions for me, my information's on the Hanover Women's Club site. It's on the Hanover PTA website. Please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I am available. I do work some nights as a nurse, so I may not get right back to you during the day. If I get back to you a little bit later in the day, it probably means I worked the night before. But I would love to use my 25 years of nursing experience in service to this town that has given so much to me and my children. So like I said, please don't hesitate to reach out if you have any questions for me. I'm available. And thank you for the opportunity tonight.
Thank you very much. Next, we'll have the school committee, and Mrs. Hall, may I start with you?
Sure. Thank you again, everyone. In any year, our goal is to be a top performing district. Specifically, as we emerge from this pandemic, we need to acknowledge our successes while identifying areas where our district can improve. And in order to do this, we need to be able to meet all of our students where they are, but keep our collective eye on moving them forward in September and in years to follow. There is a desire before the pandemic hit to address certain key topics, such as Hanover's standing with respect to other districts. And in order to be a leading district, we need to be able to address the immediate challenges while continuing the work to improve educational opportunities for all students. I want to be a member of a committee that sets clear goals with measurable outcomes for our district and has a collective agenda to see the appropriate challenges are provided at all levels for all students in Hanover Public Schools. If I am elected, I will do the research, I will ask the hard questions, and listen to the voices of our community. To those that have reached out and shared your stories and concerns, I am listening. Based on all the information, I will make informed recommendations on policies and programs that directly and positively impact the ability for every student to achieve academic excellence in the Hanover Public Schools. As parents and teachers, we always ask our children to work hard and do their very best. How can we not ask ourselves as a district to do the same? With the collective talent in our town, it is not enough to say we're doing okay. We owe it to our kids to reach beyond where we were before the pandemic and see ourselves as one of the top districts in the state. I truly look forward to rolling up my sleeves and getting to work. Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Geary?
Thank you, Mary Ann, and thank you for the Women's Club Juniors for having us this evening. It no doubt has been a challenging but rewarding year to serve and carry out the three core responsibilities of our school committee, which is hiring and firing of our superintendent and managing him, managing and balancing our budget, and creating policies and district strategies. I am honored to be able to have done that for this district for the past 9 years. I look forward to doing it for another 3 years. And I believe that our district has been a leader within the state coming out of this pandemic and putting ourselves in the best possible position for carrying out the highest level of excellence and achievement in the classroom for all of our students. We've been recognized by Commissioner Riley and the Department of Ed as one of the leading districts in the state. And I look forward to serving this community and this community for another 3 years. And I look forward to your vote come May. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Mrs. Corbo?
Thank you, Ms. Brignelli, and all who worked so hard to make this forum possible. It is such a valuable resource to the community. It is the committee's duty to oversee policy budget and employ and supervise the superintendent. The committee provides important checks and balances and accountability to school operations. And while our role might seem limited in scope, it encompasses so much. School committee members must have knowledge of educational laws, rules, regulations, and trends. We must be willing to work constructively and collaboratively with others in our community, in our town government, and in our own school district. We must be willing to ask hard questions, to look critically and evaluate our operations, and be the voice of residents, students, and families, even if that means being the only voice and speaking out when it is uncomfortable or difficult. Most importantly, we must listen, because we cannot effectively represent the community unless we listen to residents, families, and students themselves. I am running for school committee because I have the experience necessary to navigate the upcoming challenges our district faces next year and in the years beyond, as well as a demonstrating willingness and ability to advocate for our students and families, and putting the needs of our students and families above all else. This is your committee, and I promise to remember that. I've been humbled by the trust this community has shown in me by electing me to 3 terms, and I respectfully ask for the honor to continue representing your voice in our school district. Thank you.
Thank you. And the selectmen, Mr. Sawin?
Thank you, Mary Ann. As you know, I'm married to my beautiful wife, Diane, for 36 years. And we are proud parents of 4 children and 3 grandchildren, all attended Hanover schools. My 2 sons and I are all Eagle Scouts. My family experience has helped me focus on the following issues: environmental stewardship, preserving open space and iconic properties that contribute to the history and culture within the town of Hanover, diminishing contaminants of our fresh water supply and ensure it's commensurate with town growth, continue our efforts to mitigate the national fireworks site, explore the use of clean renewable energy for municipal use, and explore other uses of the town-owned wind turbine. Small business and recovery, assist small businesses hit hard with the economic effects of COVID-19. First responders and veteran services continue to work with our elected officials to ensure that Hanover receives the most funding for police, fire, and first responders. Coordinate with our veteran services to help ensure that they are well funded. Municipal finance. I am opposed to unnecessary tax increases. In closing, for over 33 years, my family and I have called Hanover our home. It is the most important reason why I am running for the selectmen. I will use my federal experience, coupled with my military and community service background, to make Hanover a great place to live and raise a family now and in the future. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your support.
Thank you. Thank you, candidates. Running an election can be very stressful, and I want to thank you all for being here this evening. You all have been fabulous. The town should be very, very, very proud of each and every one of
Mary Ann,
you.
you have others. You didn't
Who?
have closing statements from all the selectmen, did you?
Oh, so sorry. Well, Mr. Sawin, sorry. I got so ahead of myself. Oh, I do apologize. Mr. Louko, thank you, Doug. Mr. Louko.
Okay, Marianne, I think we got dropped off your screen. We actually, Dave and I actually missed the question about water too. But first, I'd actually like to go back to the water question just to address that, because it is a concern for a lot of residents. And it's something that has to be talked about. The quality of the water seems to have gotten better, at least more consistent since the chloramine was adopted from the chlorine. But I think that had more to do with the training that the consultant provided. And the delay in the rollout of the chloramine was because of that training. Our water department staff needed to be trained to operate it properly, and they're operating it properly. It still has chemicals in it, and my water is still discolored. So there are issues where the conversation still needs to happen, and the Board of Selectmen and on Board of Selectmen, I would make sure that those conversations are consistent and regular. Does Hanover need something like a water review board that meets monthly? I think that's something worth considering, and to bring in some of the expertise from our local residents that contribute to the conversation to make sure that the right consideration is taken for our water. Closing statement. Now, lived in Hanover for 10 years with my wife and 2 daughters. They go to Hanover schools, play in the HYA sports program. We're involved in town. We love the town. We chose Hanover. I volunteer in town on a number of boards and committees, and am committed to the town. And last year I ran for this office because I saw some big issues that I wanted to help make the right decisions on. And this past year sure was a difficult year, but I put in some effort and tried to move those interests and those efforts forward. We have some good articles at town meeting to consider for the voters to weigh in on those. Again, it always comes back to the voters. We're here to make the town better for all of us. I've always had an interest in public service. When I was in high school, I was one of the kids running around the mic at town meeting. So I've always had an affinity for town meeting. And I like to take my background, as an accountant and in construction management, to bring, some common sense conversation. And I look at the numbers, with the budget, just cut and expenses and create some efficiencies where we can.
Great. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Delaney.
Thank you. I'd like to start by thanking the hosts of tonight's meeting for having us and for everyone to participate. It's great to see so many volunteers anxious to help out. And also I'd like to thank the taxpayers, voters of Hanover for supporting me over the last 6 years. The first time I ran, there wasn't a lot of interest. I ran unopposed and I won. Second time around, there was several challengers and it was pretty tight. So it was nice that I had tremendous support from the voters at that point in time as well, and got to stay for another 3 years. At this point in time, there are a lot of things the board's been working on. I've learned a ton over the course of time. When I first started, as I said before, I didn't know a whole heck of a lot, but now I'm certainly pretty well versed in what's going on in town. I listen a lot, I think a lot, I don't talk a lot unless I have something to say. I don't have an ornate campaign platform. I think that people support me because I can take issues as they come at me, whether they be slowly or quickly. I can make decisions that are in the best interest of the town and its taxpayers. I do what I do because I love the town. I love to help. I'm always available. If any people, party, committees, groups, or anyone else, business owners need help, they reach out to me often, and I do what I can to help them. If you're wondering who to vote for or what I'm all about, I would suggest look me up on social media, see who our mutual friends are, reach out to them and ask them what they think of Dave Delaney and what he's done to help along the way for the past 6 years. Speak to any of the employees in town, at town hall, police force, fire department, the school administration, or anyone else, and just say these are the candidates and what do you think of these folks and who should I vote for. I'm always available if anyone wants to reach out to me, text me, call me, email me. I'm up late at night and I wake up early, so I try to answer people at any time I can, whether it be late at night, early during the day. Sometimes I'm real busy with my business, but I do like to help, and I would like to continue working on the things that we are involved with, like the fireworks cleanup, keeping our schools strong, being mindful of the needs of our seniors, and spending responsibly, especially as we face the budget woes that are going to come forward because of the pandemic and people having trouble paying their tax bill. I think we can intelligently continue to grow the commercial tax base. My experience on the Board of Assessors has been very helpful in helping me to understand how that all works in detail. So I look forward to continuing the work that this board has done since I started in 2015. I had thoughts of moving on because it does take a lot of time and effort and energy away from my family and my business without any real personal gain. So I did listen to some folks that encouraged me to stay on. Multiple of them are on this panel here tonight. So I'm looking forward to continuing that work, and I would ask for the support of the voters of Hanover. And if anyone would like to talk about it, certainly reach out to me.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Moderator, is that everyone?
As far as I can tell.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you all so much. You're so impressive, and Hanover, I hope, is proud of each and every one of you. I know I am. And thank you all for attending this evening's forum. And again, special thanks to all who made tonight possible. And remember to attend town meeting and to vote at the high school on May 8th. Good night, all.